first statement about officers starting line of duty from car accidents or being involved in traffic accidents more than being killed in the line of duty.
I didn't say more.
More or half, but that is a very, very big issue because that vehicle is a weapon, whether they're being used to hurt others or hurt themselves. So,
By who, the police or by the people?
by the police. So that is a true statement. Getting back to accountability, when I retired, I was in charge of the State Police Academy, Pennsylvania State Police Academy. And one of my speeches I give to every academy class that I hold to my standards and that I hold to all the academy classes that went through the academy when I was there, is that effective tomorrow, when you graduate, you are held at a higher standard than anybody else, 24/7, 7 days a week, including your family. And you're going to be watched. And anything you do because somebody else can do it, you cannot get away with it. When it comes to police departments or prosecutors not prosecuting misconduct, then that's an issue that you and your community should take up. Because the district attorney or the attorney general are publicly elected officials. And those are the issues that you should take up with those.
Well, as I said, any sampling of videos taken of the police, any sampling, shows an overwhelming majority of them engaged in abrasive, confrontational, or excessive behavior in their dealings with people when they...
I appreciate the comment, and we'll stick around afterwards, but I would like to get another question. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Is there a registry where every time a SWAT team is deployed, is it mandatory that they basically give a description, they keep confidentiality, so we kind of have an idea of why they're being deployed, like a statistics and from around the country, of every time the SWAT team was deployed? Is it registered?
No.
No.
In Maryland it is. Maryland's the only state that requires that now.
You talked about the criminal side of it, and I guess the intent is part of that. And you talk about the rules, whether they follow procedures, if they break the rules, someone dies. What about reform into opening towards getting away from maybe talking about negligence on the side of police officers or their commanders or leadership who develop the procedures to follow?
This is not going to be a popular opinion with police officers, but I do think that qualified immunity does kind of put officers in a state of mind that they are sort of above the law where it can. I do understand the argument that police officers need some sort of extra protection so they're not sort of hesitating before using force when it is necessary. But qualified immunity basically rules out negligence, and so you have to prove basically malicious intent before you can even get into a courtroom. So, and the police officers actually aren't personally paying in these damages. I mean, it's very rare that a police officer is sued or a jury awards punitive damages. It's usually the taxpayers that pay in these lawsuits. So yeah, I do think. I don't know. Qualified immunity is the legal standard. I think it would be good to sort of create something under that, so at least egregious negligence of some kind could be addressed through the tort system. But right now, it's tough to even get into court.
Can I qualify that? I meant to individual police officers. Is what I meant.
Yeah, that's never going to fly. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
This question is primarily for Mr. Lomax. You seem like a nice guy, and I don't mean to be rude or anything, but I do think you said that basically SWAT teams make mistakes and all that. So, two questions. One, was it a mistake to deliberately obtain a tank, one, or even make T-shirts that advertise you're going to be beating crowds? Well, not you personally, obviously, but like the SWAT team. And if they are not, why should anyone in this room conclude that your organization with stated goals of safety and professionalism is not a complete failure?
No, your comment on professionalism, like the T-shirt, mistake. That's a mistake. There's no way to qualify that. As far as the tank, the one in Maricopa County, the good sergeant here was part of the one in
first armored vehicles was a armored personnel carrier that my department obtained from the second job I had, training government tactical people. And we used them as rescue vehicles when citizens or officers were laid in the front yard after somebody had shot and wounded them or shot and killed them. We don't know whether they're alive or dead unless the wound is so obvious that we know they're dead. So therefore, our first priority is an order of priorities that's part of NQA and ICP. And one we recommend to law enforcement is citizen safety, number one, before officer safety, period, end of story. And you're shaking your head, sir, but the civilian officers at Fort Hood were the ones who entered and faced the psychologist who was murdering people in Fort Hood. And she was shot multiple times, and the sergeant put Mr. Hassan down. That's an example of putting citizen safety ahead of the police officer's safety.
When they did it in the building in Columbine.
I do understand this is a very heated topic, but I do want to get through as many questions as possible from people that were coming in.
Back to the armored vehicle, they were utilized for a number of different purposes. One was rock houses that were heavily fortified with weapons, and they had fortified them that they were like a jail, sally ports, etc. And they were utilized for that. The ACLU filed a suit against them. They had no weapons attached to them, and the only weapons that could be utilized for them were the weapons officers carried, and the highest caliber for that was a .308. They were utilized, the Supreme Court found appropriately. They said they should be regulated. How do you utilize them? We showed them our paperwork and how we administered the use of those, and that California Supreme Court held was appropriate, and that's how they were utilized. They were never done away with. Now, Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who I really don't like. So I consider him a man of goof. Now, having said that, he got a regular tank, and then he painted it with the Maricopa County colors and a star on it, and it embarrassed all of his deputies. They were embarrassed, and he put it in parades. So, and then finally, I'd like to mention one thing, if I might, please. In response to officers being murdered, my partner was buying flashlight batteries when he was murdered December the 8th, 1960, and I think he was behaving adequately and appropriately. Officers are murdered for a variety of different reasons. One, because they wear a uniform. That's happened. Two, because they put themselves in vulnerable positions and they're tactically unsound. They're either untrained or they don't listen to their training. The majority of cops who are murdered have 10 years or more on the job. It usually comes from complacency. And they put themselves in a position to be vulnerable. My final point. The President of the United States is protected by the Secret Service, as you know. The cooperation between local, state, and federal law enforcement should be good for the right reasons. You know that the motorcade security that the President of the United States enjoys right now was developed by my SWAT team, and that's where they got it. And so we have done good things together, and then I read Mr. Balko's book, and the examples that he gives make me sick. I agree with you. Way too many police officers and police departments aren't as professional as they need to be. But let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Let's not put everybody, don't take a concept that has worked and saved a lot of lives and trash it and get away from it without fixing the problems. And we want to do that, and that's what Mark is really good at. And we're moving in that direction. And one day, I hope I can reach your standards. I want to, with our association.
Perfect,
I
thank
really
you.
do.
We have time for two